Hey, what's up, everybody? Randy here, back with another how-to video. One of my biggest hobbies and obsessions is orchids. I have probably right now close to 15 to 20. Most of them, I have some pretty rare ones, but most of them are just kind of real cool ones I've found at big box stores and things like that. And really, the majority of them are rescues. So the big box stores kind of sell them now. Problem is they don't know how to take care of them. So what happens is I will go in and catch them once, they've kind of lost their flowers and things like that. Sometimes they'll still have a few flowers and I can rebloom those flowers. But this one, as you can see, is gone. But one of the bigger problems is they come in these nice fancy deals here that don't have any holes at the bottom. So the people at the store, they don't care. They just water them, and they'll end up getting like waterlogged inside here. So you'll see a lot of the roots are dead. So let's take a look at this one, and I can kind of show you. As you can see here, this one is dying off, and the flowers are gone. And let's look at these roots. You can see from this really good that these roots are just gone. You know, this comes from just being waterlogged. See that? That is just dead there. These are all bad. Now, the thing is, these green ones are still good. So that just lets you know that this thing is still alive and actually still has a bunch of life in it. And it's going to come back and be a beautiful plant and produce new flowers. So today I am going to show you how I replant them and the process that I go through. So let's get started here. First thing I'm going to do is kind of cut this off. You want to cut this off as close to the plant as you can. So that's gone. You want to make sure that you dip your clippers inside some alcohol or something to get them disinfected, which I did do. Then I like to I'm just going to use this stick because I don't have my chopsticks. Usually I use a chopstick, and I'm going to go in here now and just kind of clean off all of this old sphagnum moss. So with orchids, they need to breathe. Their roots like to breathe. They grow on the side of trees usually, so their roots have a lot of air, and so these companies usually will put them in sphagnum moss, which is not bad for them, but it will retain a lot of water if it doesn't have any breathing holes and or drainage holes. So as you saw with those, that one didn't have any drainage holes. So what happens is it just gets all nasty and soggy in here and creates a bigger problem. Now, the thing is, they do that on purpose. Let's be honest. They'll say it's because they'll say it's really because they want to put it in a decorative container. But most people don't know, how orchids grow and what their needs are. So what happens is they'll get waterlogged. So a lot of times people will pay really good money from a florist, and they'll send an orchid to someone, and that orchid will eventually just die. I rescue a lot of orchids from people, like in the neighborhood and things like that, because they know I do it, and they'll call me and say, "Hey, I have this orchid. Can you save it?" And when I get it, it's all waterlogged because there's no drainage for the water. And they're like, "I've watered it, given it sun, but it's still pretty messed up." So now you'll see where we are as far as the roots. Like, this is our root system. As big as that was, look, there's a lot of dead roots in there. So I'm going to go on and kind of get rid of that. Just pick this out. And this is going to be quick. So here we go. This is pretty much done. Now you can rinse this. I've heard of some people actually dipping theirs in hydroperoxide. I don't tend to do that. So I'm just going to go on and kind of move this out the way and lay this down here so you can basically see the green thick ones are the roots. That's what we're going to count on to keep it alive. If you touch it and it's hard, it's thick and plump, then that's a good root. These are like sponges. This does not have to have any soil or anything. As long as it's in a humid condition, this will actually soak up the air, soak water out the air, and keep this particular plant nourished. And well, not nourished, but it will keep it hydrated. So, and you can see this is the true root here. This is like a sponge to grab water to feed this root. So I'm going to go in real quick, just not to, so this is not too long. I'm going to go in and try to cut these. I should have got some scissors. Excuse me. Hold that while I grab some scissors real fast. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. So I got some scissors, and again, you want to dip these. And so I'm just going to clip off all of, I could technically leave those, but I'm going to look for any of these rotting, anything that feels like it's rotting, like that soft. I'm going to go on and get rid of that as close as I can. There. And let's see, that can go. And believe it or not, the rest of these are pretty good. I'm going to go on and leave these, the actual roots on there, and go from here. Now this, as you can see, is cut and it's probably going to fall off, and a new leaf is going to come out of here. And the first one, because they go alternate, like this one came this way, this one come this way, so the next one's actually going to come out, fill this in. So I'm going to get some potting soil or potting medium up to here. We don't really use a soil for these, so that's the one thing, you don't want to use a soil. So let me clean all of this off real fast. And now I am going to pull this in here. So this is what I use. It's by a company here in Richardson, Texas. They make a mix. And I add a little more sphagnum moss, but it has some soil and it has some fir bark, like organic fir bark, things like that. So I buy a special mix to put them in. So here we go. So now I'm going to just get this repotted for you real fast. And I do use styrofoam. This is kind of old school. You don't see it as much anymore. But I had some styrofoam here. You know, of course, we worry about the, you know, the planet and things. But the styrofoam is made. And I feel like by reusing it, I know this styrofoam is probably going to be in here for another year or two. So that's a year or two that is left out the landfills and things. So this does have quite a bit of holes. But I like to break it up and drop it in. And it's actually a little staticky, so I'm just going to break it up into some smaller pieces here. Just all right. And so I'm just going to kind of fill the bottom, and what this is going to do is going to create another layer of drainage, like a thick layer of drainage at the bottom, so water just runs straight through. Now it's really staticky on the side, but it'll settle itself down. So I'm just going to drop a few more pieces in there. Then I'm going to pick a few of the bigger pieces of the medium and drop in there. So some of the bigger pieces of fir are going to drop to the bottom. Again, I'm creating another layer, another drainage layer here. So there we go. And here we go. Good. So that's that. Now I'm going to go on and get this in here. I guess I should have, while I was up, I should have got another chopstick. I have so many chopsticks. So I'm going to set this in here and kind of get it centered and where I want it. And now I am literally just going to take, so you can see it, I'm going to grab a spoon. If I can find one. So my hands aren't all in the way. Sorry. I'm going to grab a spoon and just kind of, so I can get a lot of it and a lot of the dirt. See, there is some dirt in there, so it helps retain water. So I'm going to just kind of dump that in, and I'm going to hold this in place so it's centered. And just kind of put this on all sides. And now I am going to take my stick, usually like I said, a chopstick, and I'm just going to kind of work this down into the roots here. Just working this into the roots. Hopefully you can see that. Let's see here. So I'm going to grab some more. Actually, it's just easier to do it with my hand. I'm just going to grab some more and drop it in. Just kind of dump that in there. And tap it, and then kind of work it in. So I'm going to take a second, just kind of work this in, and I'll probably fast forward through this here. Now, what I want is for this to be, this crown to be above the median line. So I got this all in here and got it worked in. Probably work it some more, but for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna kind of call it a day. I can always work it in a little bit later. So I'm gonna get that there, and I'm gonna grab a little bit from the bottom with a little bit more of the thin medium again, and just drop that, because that eventually, when I water, will work itself into the root system here. There we go. All right, so here we go, and as you can see now, it's pretty solid. There's a big mess here. Clean this up a little bit for you. Just drop that in there. Now, the fur, when you water it, because you should soak water your plants instead of top watering them, because you don't want to get water inside the crown, because if you get water inside the crown, what's going to happen is if it doesn't have air flow, it will rot. So you don't want to do that. So I soak water you. I'll show you that in a second. But what I like to do at the very end, so I can soak it without it floating out, I put some more of the sphagnum moss back on top. So this is some new sphagnum moss. I will reuse sphagnum moss. I'm sure there's a lot of people that think that that's kind of sacrilegious, but what I'll do is I'll boil it and get any germs and parasites and things like that. So I'll boil it, and then I will drain it and let it cool, and usually let it sit. So like this has probably been sitting a couple of months, just kind of sitting around as extra. So when I get back to it, the idea that it's, there's living organisms is very slim, I'm thinking. So again, I'm just going to kind of pile this up. Notice I'm getting it up around the crown, and I'm pressing this in. And that's pretty much the repotting of it. As you can see, it's pretty much centered. I'm kind of a stickler. The OCDs kick in, so I'll work it till it gets to the center. And so that is that. So now what I'm going to do is, clean this up just a little bit. I'm going to move all of this out the way. And as you can see, here we go. Now this is repotted and pretty much ready to go. It'll go in the windowsill or whatever. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water and just the tiniest bit, as you can see, just the tiniest bit of food, and kind of drop it in there and stir it around real good. You don't want a lot, because from it being in bad shape in the beginning, and then the transplant and the cutting and all that, it's a lot of stress on the plant. So I don't want a lot, but I do want some in there, and I am just going to put that in. As you can see, that's floating, and if I didn't have the sphagnum moss in here, it would actually just, all that medium would float out. So by pressing that moist sphagnum moss, make sure it's moist already, let it soak for about 15 minutes to get wet. Now this is just going to soak for a while, and I'm not going to push it down. And what will happen is, as it gets waterlogged and as the fur bark gets wet, it'll start to drop down and even out. And once it's usually standing up like this, I know that it's pretty much waterlogged enough, and that'll be it. And for the most part, I will guess in about a month or two, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, I'll probably start to get a new leaf. And in about a month or two, you'll never know that this was a rescue. And I'm guessing, by this time next year, it will have a flower on it. So another successfully rescued orchid that more than likely would have gone in the trash, or just, somewhere else. But now I'm going to take this, and once I bloom them and they start to bloom again, or they get healthy, I usually just give them away or let somebody keep them while the blooms are still going. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and I will keep up with you on this one and let you see the progress on it as it grows and gets healthy and things like that. So if you want, subscribe. I got a lot of wacky content I got coming up hopefully soon. Subscribe, don't subscribe, not a big deal. I just kind of put this information out for people who need it, so, or want it. And so, yeah, so subscribe and follow, because like I said, no telling what you might see on my channel, or whatever. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and take care. Peace.